Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another Marvel Crisis Protocol character spotlight. And today we are taking a look at the goodest boy, Lockjaw himself. We've been playing a lot of him in a few recent battle reports on the channel, so I figured he was past due to get his spotlight here. And yeah, Lockjaw is a really fun piece, so I'm excited to get into his card and what he does, and more importantly, what he enables for your team, because he's not really typically the model that's doing all of the work himself, but he can really set up a lot of other models to do well. And as we're going to see going through his card, he does more than you would expect him to. So going into things, Lockjaw is a 3/3/3 defensively with 6 stamina. He's a 3 threat. He's a size 3, and he has a small move. Now he's on a medium base, so that small move doesn't feel quite as bad, but still definitely slower than your average character, so something to acknowledge with Lockjaw. He is size 3 though, so that makes him a little bit harder to displace, but also when he gets thrown at your own characters, you gotta worry about that a little bit. 6 health is slightly above the average, but he has very, very average defensive stats there. And then when we look at the flip side of him, the only change on his card is that he does go down to 5 health. So far defensively, he's a little on the lower end, I would say, just because the defensive stats are not too great, but he does have an ability that helps with that a little bit. So we're going to go ahead and get into the rest of his card here. Starting out, he has one attack. It is a physical attack. It's range 2. It's going to cost him 0 power and throw 4 dice at your opponent. It says after this attack is resolved, he gains power equal to the damage dealt. So usually not too big of a fan of uh, attacks that build power based on damage when it's only a 4 dice attack. However, Lockjaw does have something to help with that, and we'll get into that in a moment. And then he also has a wild bleed on here, so he can hand out the bleed condition, which is a nice little extra bit of kind of delayed damage output from Lockjaw. So solid condition to have, but so far nothing really special about this builder, and this is the only attack in his kit, so you can immediately see Lockjaw is not going to be your primary attrition piece in most games. However, he can hit a little above his weight using Drop It. This is a active superpower. It's going to cost him 3 power. It says choose an interactive terrain feature of size 3 or less within range 2 and throw it medium. This superpower can be used only once per turn. So the medium throw is actually giving you a surprising amount of range on that. That throw is actually going to be further than his attacks. And size 3, so that can potentially do a lot of damage. If you can set yourself up well, Lockjaw can hit well above what you would expect him to for his role in the team. I'm not going to say above his weight class because he is a 3 threat, and I think a 3 threat spent like using the equivalent of a spender or something like that can probably do more damage still, but more than you would expect with a size 3 terrain throw. So really nice ability to have. Not a character throw, so he's not displacing enemy characters with that or anything crazy like that, but some just extra damage here and there. So really, really solid. His next superpower here is Interdimensional Bloodhound. This is a 3-cost active superpower as well. And it says choose an enemy character. Allied characters roll one additional attack die when targeting the chosen character with attacks this round. And it's even got its own little token there. And yeah, this is really good. The same ability is on Craven, I believe, and it's generically a pretty good ability. You do have to be kind of careful with Lockjaw and when you're choosing to use this. You don't want to be choosing to go with Lockjaw first and then having the character that would benefit the most from Interdimensional Bloodhound end up getting dazed or KO'd before they get to activate because you chose to set up with this first. So you're going to have to be careful with how you're setting this up and who's going to be taking advantage of that Interdimensional Bloodhound attack, but still really, really useful, nice to have ability. And we'll be talking about some of the synergies with Lockjaw later, where you can really get some maximum mileage out of that. But yeah, this can be really, really solid, and he can totally do this on his, well, I mean, he has to do this on his own turn, but he can totally do this into a target that he's able to attack as well. And all of a sudden, his 4-dicers are now 5-dicers, and he has that terrain throw, and now I think he's definitely hitting reasonably hard for a 3 threat, so that's nice to see. Then we have his third active ability here and his last active superpower. It is Teleport. This is a 2-cost and probably one of the reasons people bring Lockjaw the most. It is an action, so it's going to take one of your 2 actions. You can just do it twice if you want. But it says choose this character or another allied character within range 3 of it and place it within range 3 of its current position. A character can be placed by this superpower only once per turn. So just to note, because I can acknowledge that the wording might be a little confusing here, it places within 3 of its own current position, not Lockjaw's current position, unless of course he's placing himself. This is really, really good for obvious reasons. I don't think I need to I need to go too far into that, but being able to place a model range 3 of its current position is amazing. This can help get your slower pieces into the fight faster, especially early game. Now I know it says 2 power, but we'll get into that in a moment. This can be a great way of getting your own pieces up the board. This can be a great way of pulling your own pieces back or putting them onto objectives if they got pushed or thrown off of them. Really, really versatile, really, really powerful. Notably only works on allied characters. You can't use this to screw up your opponent's movements and things like that, but still really strong effect. Now, while a character can only be placed once per turn, you can use this superpower twice, so you can use it on 2 different characters, so you can get a lot of mobility on your team, and he can use it on himself, because that definitely is faster than walking his slow move, so definitely a good way to get him around the board as well. His next power here is the Inhuman power. This character may reroll 1 die in its attack and defense rolls, and that makes this bite builder feel a lot better. 4 dice with a reroll feels so much better than 4 dice when you're gaining power based on damage dealt. Suddenly, I like the odds on that a lot more than I do when it's just a regular 4 dicer. Also helps you get their bleed out there, so that's nice as well, and gives you a little bit more on that defensive side. 3 dice with a reroll across the board is a lot better than just flat 3 dice. So it makes him feel a lot better in a lot of different ways and is really, really good for everything on his kit, really. So it's great that he has that. I don't think it's making or breaking him, but it really helps make his stats feel a lot better. Next, he has Who's a Good Boy, and this is his last real superpower. And it says, at the start of each of this character's activation, if there's another allied character within range 2 of it, this character gains 3 power. This is really, really good. Great way to power him up. He's going to be gaining 4 power effectively if you factor in your power from the power phase every round, as long as you can make sure there is an allied character within 2 of it at the start of its own activation. Very, very strong ability. This is great. 4 power allows you to use 2 teleports right out of the gate if you so desire. It allows you to get interdimensional Bloodhound online. It has Drop It online. Tons of things you can do with that. Really, really useful. And as the game progresses, you'll build up power just by having turns where you don't want to use 2 teleports or something like that. So you'll be able to do more of these things in the same round. And yeah, this can be fantastic. This means his teleport is online round 1 for up to 2 other models or 1 in himself, because he definitely wants to kind of stay close to some of your allied models so he can benefit from this again next round. So personally, a lot of the time I like to teleport something big up, something, with a large base that'll get lots of movement out of it and hit really hard, and then teleport himself just to kind of keep up with them and maybe put himself on an objective or something like that. So that's kind of my usual turn 1 game plan with Lockjaw, or round 1, I should say. It's usually not the first turn, but it's in the first round. And yeah, it's a very versatile kit here because of that extra power you gain every round. So that's the core of his kit. He also has immunity poison, which is nice. That means he's always going, well, unless he's been stunned, but he's never going to not gain that 4 outside of being stunned. So that's really, really nice. He can't be stuck with just 3, which of course only allows him 1 teleport. So that's really, really solid for him there. But yeah, overall, he has a really, really solid kit. There's a lot of good things going for him here. He's got some amazing support abilities between Interdimensional Bloodhound and Teleport. He hits surprisingly hard, harder than your opponent's expecting him to, between Drop It, Bite, and the Inhuman rerolls. And he can Interdimensional Bloodhound his own targets, so that also matters as well. I find a lot of the time in the late game that just kind of ends up happening is like Lockjaw needs to actually do something on his turn and he's got 10 power. Interdimensional Bloodhound, teleport in, bite for, a damage or 2, drop it, throw a building at them. Suddenly, Lockjaw just came out of nowhere with a steel chair, or in this case, a bodega, and just takes down Juggernaut or something. Always, always fun to see what Lockjaw does in the late game when he's no longer just being a support bot and he actually has to do some things on his own. Because he does more than you'd expect, and it usually feels pretty good. So yeah, he's got a really solid kit. We're gonna go ahead and talk about some of the other things related to him, like his tactics cards now. So Lockjaw only has one tactics card. It is Last Minute Save. This is an unaffiliated card, so even when you're splashing Lockjaw, you can bring this with you. And it is reactive. It says when another allied character within range 3 of an allied Lockjaw would be KO'd by an enemy effect, Lockjaw may spend 3 power to play this card. The allied character removes 1 damage, is not KO'd, and is placed within range 1 of Lockjaw. This is really, really good. Way to stop your opponent from taking down one of your models. If you know they've put everything that they had that activation into a model, especially a model that hasn't activated yet, being able to say, nope, they're actually on 1 health and they're going to get another turn is really, really powerful. Now, you do have to keep in mind that this does specify it would be KO'd. So doesn't apply to things that would daze, which means using this on something like a Hulk, a Mortal Hulk, or She-Hulk doesn't actually work because it has to be KO'd by an enemy effect, and those 3 models only get dazed by enemy effects. They're actually KO'd by their own effects. So unfortunately, you can't use this to protect those types of models, but there are still a lot of models that being able to keep them alive on 1 health is huge. Some models that come to mind are stuff like Wolverine, where he's going to get extra dice on his flip side for damage that he has on them, or even just something as simple as, you need your leader alive this round, or this model is sitting on 10 power and they're about to go ham and they get taken out by an unfortunate dice roll. And Lockjaw can keep them alive. Your opponent doesn't have anything else they can do on your turn. You really want to be careful of when you play this card, making sure your opponent won't be able to just be like, well, okay, you did that, so I throw a building at you or something like that. You want to make sure they are out of resources to kill you with that activation, or you're maybe trying to bait out those resources and go into this target more instead of something else that would be more valuable to you. But either way, you want to be aware of what your opponent's going to be able to do in response to this card. And hopefully, most of the time, the answer to that is nothing. And now your character gets to go and do whatever you wanted them to do. Really, really powerful card for those types of situations. And also, really importantly, it does teleport them within 1 of Lockjaw, so you can use that to kind of manipulate their ability to finish the kill at that point. Definitely something useful and meaningful there. But yeah, really powerful card. Definitely something you gotta know the situations where it's going to be good. You got to be able to see them coming, and this can be something that's really annoying for your opponent to play around. So definitely a solid card and worth considering anywhere you're bringing Lockjaw, whether it's in his home affiliation or as a splash. Speaking of affiliations, Lockjaw only belongs to one. He is a member of the Inhumans. So, of course, their only leader is Black Bolt, and he's great here. The leadership's ability to manipulate power and pass it around. As I said, a lot of the time towards the mid or late game, Lockjaw doesn't need that 4 power every turn. Even the first turn, a lot of the time, you'll teleport up one guy and you can just walk to your objective. So you don't really need that extra 2 power. You can pass one away to someone else. They'll be able to use it for whatever they want to use it for. And then the next turn you can pass another one as well, and suddenly Lockjaw has been worth 2 power on another character, and he has teleported someone else up the board. And this goes even further when you pair him with something like Black Bolt himself, where you can give Black Bolt a bunch of extra power to be able to use things like his own Master Punch, and then you teleport him up the board so he's in range of that nice and early. Really, really useful things there. And a few other models in the affiliation don't mind the power either. If you're running Ronin without the Power Stone, he definitely appreciates that little boost there. And he also really appreciates that movement because he doesn't have any mobility in his kit himself. So being able to pass power to him and teleport him up the board, also really, really meaningful. And a few other situations here. You do have some other models kind of fulfilling similar roles as him, like Medusa. That's why I do think Inhumans play reasonably well on things like B maps, though, because you can have one support model on one side and the other on the other to kind of bring up your heavy hitters and put things where they need to be. So he definitely plays really well in his home affiliation. No doubt about it there. He's got some strong synergies and a few models that really appreciate what he does. Let's take a look at some of the other places he might be valuable as well. So, taking a look at some of the other affiliations, one of the first ones that comes to mind for me for Lockjaw is Midnight Suns. Now, there was a popular list running around for a while called iDog, and basically the idea was you're bringing Immortal Hulk, you're bringing Lockjaw, and of course you're bringing Blade. And it means Immortal Hulk, if you want, can be hitting your opponent's deployment line round one. So all you had to do for it was you bring Lockjaw, you teleport Hulk up, and then on Hulk's turn, he bumps with the leadership from Blade, which allows you to place yourself range one of your current position for one power. And then you play his card to give him basically a two-cost version of Gamma Leap. It's one below all, I believe, is the card. So now he has placed three, placed one, and then placed two again. And I believe that was all the steps. I might be missing something in there. I've never actually used it to get to a deployment line. I just know it's possible. But by this point, at the very least, you can walk and punch the deployment line. But I believe you're already in range to double punch the deployment line on your opponent's side of the board. Because of that large base, remember those places are giving you a lot of distance, even that range one place from that leadership. So you can really put Hulk in a position to absolutely mess up some other models using Lockjaw to get him there. So really, really powerful synergy here in Midnight Suns. And there's a few more synergies that Lockjaw brings to the Midnight Suns affiliation, even outside of the iDog strategy. I mean, right out the gate, he synergizes well with Blade, another model that doesn't have a crazy amount of mobility on his own, at least in the early game. Those throwing glaives have a hit pursuit, which is nice, but that's not the most consistent thing in the world. So if you're not bringing the big Hulk and you want to teleport Blade up, that's definitely a reasonable option as well. But more so than that, Lockjaw can hand out the bleed condition as well with that wild on his bite, which is really nice for Blade if he has the power to be doing things like double spenders on his turn. Of course, you want to be careful. You don't want to leave Blade to be downed while Lockjaw is setting that up with a bleed. But if Lockjaw can put a bleed on a character and maybe interdimensional bloodhound them, and then when Blade gets to go, now he's rolling 8 dice with full rerolls, and he can do this twice if he wants, you can cause a lot of devastation with that kind of combo. Obviously, like I said, be careful of the setup on that. You don't want Blade to die when your opponent gets a turn between Lockjaw and Blade, so you have to know what you're doing. You have to have the tools to protect him, whether that's something like Iron Fist sitting with a Heroes for Hire ready to go, or something like that. Just make sure you're playing that carefully. But there is a strong synergy there. Another really nice synergy that he brings to this affiliation is that Midnight Suns have a card called Siege of Darkness. Now, while Lockjaw doesn't benefit from that card himself, I believe it doesn't have to be a Midnight Suns character's activation. As a matter of fact, I'm certain it doesn't. So what this card does for those who are unaware, who don't play Midnight Suns very often, is it allows every Midnight Suns character or any number of Midnight Suns characters to pay 2 power and immediately make a 0 cost attack. So what you can do with this is if there's a model you really need to kill, you want to kill it nice and early, like in round 2 or something like that. Let's say it's something big that everyone can kind of pile in on, and you're setting up the siege for it. Sometimes in the early game that won't be as consistent as you want, because that you're usually going to only get 3, maybe 4 free attacks into it, and they're all 0 costs. None of them are much more than 5 dice unless you have Immortal Hulk in there. So these sometimes this siege turn can make or break the game for a Midnight Suns team. But if you choose to do it on Lockjaw's turn, of course you're giving up the fact that maybe one of these characters could do more with their own attacks on that turn. But Lockjaw can interdimensional bloodhound before you go for the siege, and then everybody gets that extra die on the siege. Or you can interdimensional bloodhound earlier in the round, and then you siege on someone else's turn later. However you want to do that. But either way, you can set up that extra die for everybody on your team before they make those attacks, and then you get a bunch of extra attacks out of it in the same round that you activated that ability. So you can really capitalize on that interdimensional bloodhound in a way not very many other affiliations can. Now, of course, having mentioned that, other noteworthy places would include Spider Foes with their new card that's basically the same thing but only targeting one character, and that's kind of what you'd be going for with the Lockjaw play anyways, so it works really well there. And then Wakanda also has Wakanda Forever, which is almost the exact same card. So those are other places where that exact same synergy works as well. But I specifically mentioned Midnight Suns because of the extra synergies with Blade and Immortal Hulk, really pushing that to be, in my opinion, one of the best places to run Lockjaw because he just does so much there. Aside from that, Lockjaw isn't really a model that needs leaderships to do what he wants to do. He's much more of a support piece. So I don't find he's really going to be something that's benefiting from the affiliation as much as he will benefit certain models really, really strongly and certain playstyles as well. So he works really well with Midnight Suns because of Immortal Hulk. I think similarly, he can work in a lot of places that are running things like Hulk, whether that's Avengers or Defenders. Though those places could definitely appreciate some extra mobility. Again, you're not going to get as much out of the leaderships from those ones, although Steve 1, I think, could be quite interesting with him, getting those reductions on those superpowers, making him a little bit more power efficient in those early turns. You can potentially do some interesting things with that. But not really going to be as big of a deal from the leadership as much as being able to teleport those big pieces up the board like Hulk, being able to teleport something like Dormammu up the board if you're playing Dark Dimension, and Lockjaw's a target for the revival as well, although I don't know if he's going to be your favorite target most of the time because at the end of the day he's not one of the hard hitters, so maybe consider that one. But I do think the ability to teleport Dormammu up the board is very scary. I like the idea of him somewhere like Brotherhood as well. He's got that train throw, he's got that online turn 1, so you can use that to destroy a size 3 piece of terrain, turn 1, hand out 3 power to your team, give one of it back to Lockjaw, because I believe you are allowed to give it to the character who destroyed the train feature. Yeah. So give one of it back to Lockjaw, then he teleports Magneto up the board, because Magneto, as everyone knows, is a very slow model. So boom, you've handed out power to half your team, you've teleported your leader up the board, so he's going to be able to do big things on his turn, and you've set yourself up really, really well for the next few turns. Of course, this could be this could be giving up some advantages of being able to go and pick up objectives or something, so maybe you wait and do the second or third turn or something like that. But just throwing some options out there for different kind of things he can provide to different teams. And I definitely think Brotherhood's actually probably one of the stronger places for him, although I haven't tried it myself, so what do I know? But yeah, I think there's a lot of really interesting places for him. I think any model that's really lacking mobility, he can help in a huge way. And it's, that's a very, very long list of models. I think you're definitely going to get the most out of him if you're putting him in places with larger base models, whether that's medium or large, higher threat models. So you're going to be, because you're dedicating 3 threat to helping this model, they need to feel like they are hitting 3 threat above their weight, which obviously isn't always going to be the case, but hopefully Lockjaw's doing some things on his own to help make up for that as well. But yeah, we could go through the list of every character in the game, and this would be an hour-long video of just, hey, Lockjaw helps him, Lockjaw helps him. So really just try to think about those types of models like Immortal Hulk, like Magneto, that really can appreciate and get a lot of benefit out of that extra mobility, and once they get there are going to be able to hit hard enough to kind of make up for some of that lost value in a 3 threat that doesn't hit as hard and isn't as bulky. So lots of interesting places for them, but I'm curious to know what you guys think. Let me know down below where your favorite places to bring the goodest boy is. What kind of models did I not mention here that he synergizes really, really well with? Love to hear what you guys think. I absolutely love playing this model, so I'm definitely curious to try out some of the ideas that you guys have on who could benefit a lot from running with the best boy, because yeah, he's a really good boy and I enjoy playing him a lot. So but that is going to do it from my end for this character spotlight. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please do drop a like down below. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. We do character spotlights like these every week, and we have battle reports on the weekends. So if you like either of those things, feel free to join on in. But that's going to be it for now. So until next time, have a great day, everybody. Peace.